Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me. So for this video, I'm going to be continuing my series of reviewing the Last Dance, the documentary on the Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. So I was really looking forward to this week's episodes because I knew we were going to be getting into very interesting to say the least, Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan's battles with the Detroit Pistons. And I think that was really important, and I'm glad that they spent so much time on it because that is a huge part of Michael Jordan's legacy. Because, when we think about Michael Jordan now, in retrospect, we just remember him as being this guy. Oh, he's the greatest player of all time, and he never lost in the finals, and he won so much, and he had so many awards and accolades, but you forget sometimes that there was a time when he wasn't a champion, and he had a reputation of being a great player, probably the best player in the game, but not getting the full respect he deserved because he hadn't won a championship. And that's how it is in sports. You deal with the pressure of being the best player in the world, but also that you have to deal with the expectations of you got to win. You will never be considered the legend, a legend amongst the all-time greats until you have won a championship. And Michael Jordan had to do that, and in order to do that, he had to get through the very physical Detroit Piston, the Bad Boys. As we see in the documentary, I mean, they had freaking special rules for this guy, and they beat the living hell out of him. It's one thing to say, like, you get beat by a team who's like just outplaying you, and they got just guys who are better skilled players and just know the game better. But it wasn't as much about that as it was they just beat the hell out of Michael Jordan. They were just saying, how do we stop this guy? If we stop him, if he doesn't do as good, then of course the rest of the team isn't going to be able to carry the load. It's pretty much this guy, Michael Jordan, are nothing for the Chicago Bulls, and they took advantage of that, and they just beat the hell out of him. And you see some of the footage of some of the fouls, and you compare it to today, how, I mean, today some of those fouls would be like flagrant twos. You'd be getting fined and suspended probably, and you'd be immediately ejected from the game. But back then, it was just what Michael Jordan had to go through, and it's just a credit to his determination for him to get through that. I can't remember who, one player or something. Somebody said it's like, can't believe he made it through that alive. I mean, they really took a piece of him, and you know, it just love seeing the footage of him just working out and over the summer. It's like he was tired of it, and it's just a credit to his dedication that he knew that he had to get stronger, he had to gain weight in order to beat these guys, and he knew that, and he wasn't selfish enough to be like, no, I don't need to lift weights or anything like that. I'm gonna beat these guys eventually. No, the Detroit Pistons, in a way, kind of made Michael Jordan what he is. They made him have to go to that next level, and that's the if you look back on it now, if he didn't get through the Detroit Pistons, we would have never have gotten probably the Michael Jordan we know today. So in a way, you have to just thank the Detroit Pistons for being that hard on Michael Jordan and pushing him to the next level. And yeah, that was really just love seeing that, and love seeing love seeing how freaking Michael Jordan was reacting to the footage of how Isaiah Thomas didn't like shake hands, and you can see the hatred is there still to this day. And he said as such, he's like, he still hates him. It's still personal because it was personal, it was physical, and it was personal. And love seeing that. I mean, there's nothing like a good sports rivalry, and that was a big rivalry back in the late '80s. So yeah, there was that, and of course we got into the enigma that is Dennis Rodman, and I had already knew a lot about Dennis Rodman just from just being learning a lot about the game, and also um, the um, the 30 for 30 that ESPN did before this came out earlier this year, I believe it was, and it was on just Dennis Rodman telling his whole story of his time with the Pistons and the Bulls, and how he was like a freaking celebrity off the court. It was the fancy uniform, the clothing and the hair and everything is just it was crazy, and it's just crazy to think of how um, that just shows why the Bulls were considered like the Beatles, is because they had so many different personalities. They had Michael Jordan, the best player in the world. They had Scottie Pippen, his Robin, and then the third guy, a part of the story, was the crazy Dennis Rodman. It's awesome that they managed to juggle all those personalities, and that's a credit to Michael Jordan's leadership and also the coach Phil Jackson, how he was able to manage that. Look at the last season alone of him dealing with Dennis Rodman, dealing with the trade demand of Scottie Pippen, and the whole. Um, the, elephant in the room of it being Michael Jordan. Will Michael Jordan retire? And him knowing it's going to be his last year as a Chicago Bull, he could have mailed it in and probably not cared as much. But he had the mindset. He had everybody focused and saying, this is going to be the last dance, and so let's go out full force and let's just keep going. I mean, it just shows why he's considered the greatest coach of all time. Of course, we're not going to see that in this documentary, but he went on to do that, and he won 3 championships with my Los Angeles Lakers, dealing with the egos and the rivalry and the inner conflicts of Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. So I mean, just much respect to Phil Jackson. Like I said, probably the greatest coach of all time in basketball, and one of the greatest coaches in sports history. And so yeah, there was that, and I love the storytelling, how they tell it. They of course it's the Last Dance, and it's about Michael Jordan's last season, but it'll say like tell a story there, and then it'll go back in time, and each episode has been kind of dedicated to each member of the main people of the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. You get their whole life story and how their journey led to the Chicago Bulls. I just really love the how they are telling the story. It's just really great to see, and just can't get enough of it. And I'm already looking forward to next week's episodes. And so yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on episodes 3 and 4. Like I said, I will continue to do weekly reviews as they are dropped on Sunday. And so please join me if you've been watching along with this documentary to hear my thoughts. And if you have any thoughts, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you have to say on this week's episodes. And please stay tuned to next week for another episode or another review of The Last Dance. So thank you so much for joining me, and stay safe, everybody. Consider, if you like what I had to say in this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. So thank you very much.